Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you guys had a nice lunch. So we are here again back to our session of bioavailability. And in the first session, we learned a little bit about the bioavailability. We learned about the definition, and we also learned what is the concept behind determining the bioavailability. The next thing we want to know is why do we need to determine the bioavailability? Because now it is the requirement by the FDA that the drug to make sure that the drug product is safe and effective. So now we know the history also that due to Kafaber's that thalidomide trial, after that only it became very necessary to prove it to FDA that your drug is safe and efficient enough to be marketed outside. So now it is and how will you make sure that your drug is safe and effective enough? By doing the bioavailability testing on your drug. So that then from that point on only FDA made it very strict that you'll have to produce a documented results of your drug that your drug is safe and effective to use. Then the measurement of bioavailability is generally done through area under the curve by the dose you have given to the subject or to the animals if you're doing a preclinical trial. Then there are two types of bioavailability. Okay? First is absolute bioavailability and another one is relative bioavailability. So what do you mean by absolute bioavailability? Absolute bioavailability for a drugs with approved NDA. So absolute bioavailability is done for the drugs which have approved NDA. What do you mean by NDA now? You must tell me what is NDA, full form of NDA.
New drug application.
Yes, it is new drug application. So if you have a drug in with you which has approved new drug application, then you will be doing absolute bioavailability testing. So you have to know that what is the exact bioavailability of that drug when you compare it with the IV formulation. So why you want to compare it with the IV formulation? Because you know that IV formulations are they can go into the systemic circulation directly, and their bioavailability will be 100% when compared to the oral formulation. So that is when you require. So if you have a drug formulation which is a tablet, capsule, or liquid or something, in that case, and if you have a drug whose new drug application is approved, then you will be going ahead and doing the absolute bioavailability where you will compare the results with IV formulation. Okay, IV in the sense, why do you want to compare with the IV? Because we know that for intravenous administration, the systemic circulation will be 100%. That means absorption of the drug is going to be 100%. So that in that case, when you want to find out the absolute bioavailability for a newly approved drug, you'll be comparing the data with the IV formulation. Okay. What is relative availability? So relative availability for drugs without full NDA. So you don't require a full NDA for that. So basically, it's like a bioequivalence test in the sense, I have been always telling you about this example that I am a company and I have made a paracetamol tablet, but Glenmark is already having paracetamol tablet, which is available there in the market. So what is relative bioavailability? I'll be doing my drugs bioavailability testing, and I'll be taking reference drug as Glenmark's paracetamol because it is already available in the market. And then I have to just make sure कि जितना Glenmark का product का bioavailability आ रहा है for paracetamol tablet, my drug should also produce the same amount of bioavailability. ठीक है? So so why do we do so many measures in bioavailability to make sure that safety and efficacy of the drug are intact? Okay, so this is how we'll be making sure that by doing the type of whatever type of bioavailability test you want to do, you will be making sure that your drug is safe and effective to use. So again, they have given the types of bioavailability in detail over here. So just now I told you about the absolute bioavailability. So if the systemic availability of a drug administered orally is determined by doing its comparison with intravenous administration, it is known as absolute bioavailability, right? And this is the formula. So F is indication of bioavailability. Area under the curve for extravascular upon area under the curve for intravenous into dose for intravenous upon dose for extravascular. So basically it is done, bioavailability will be determined by area under the curve of upon dose of extravascular and area divided by area under the curve upon dose for intravenous. So it goes up and it comes down, whatever it is. This formula will be derived after that. Okay, so that is what it is. So absolute bioavailability, you must remember that you should always compare it with the intravenous administration. Okay, so if you are giving a dosage form which is oral in route, या फिर rectal in route, या फिर liquid, या फिर something else, which is different than that of IV, then you will be comparing your data with the intravenous administration of the same. So that time your reference will be what? Your intravenous dose. Okay, so just now I told you it will be like F of AUC. It's so difficult to write with this. AUC upon dose D, I'm just indicating D, of extravascular upon AUC के लिए सिर्फ मैं अभी A लिख रही हूँ, A upon D of IV. Okay, and when we make it into a formula, we derive this particular formula. Okay, so that is how it is. So absolute bioavailability, it will be area under the curve upon dose of extravascular upon area under the curve upon dose of intravenous administration. Okay, so moving on, what is relative bioavailability? So if the systemic availability of a drug administered orally is determined by doing its comparison with that of an oral standard of the same drug, it is known as the relative bioavailability. So I just told you that I have made my drug and I'm comparing it with the Glenmark's drug, then I'll be doing the same. So it is same as that of the formula for relative bioavailability will be extravascular 1 and extravascular 2, right? So extravascular 1 is my formulation and extravascular 2 is the Glenmark's formulation that I'm going to compare with or refer with. Okay? So it is same formula what I have just written, and then you'll be getting the relative bioavailability TB. So very important, what is the definition of bioavailability and what are the two types of the bioavailability. Then moving on in the same thing, range of bioavailability. So generally range of bioavailability is given from 0 to 1, okay? And it is usually expressed in the percentage. So an absolute bioavailability of 1, which will indicate 100% of absorption. That means complete absorption. Relative, so in absolute bioavailability, you will be looking for bioavailability in the range of 1, nearby 1, so which will indicate that you have your formulation has a complete absorption as that of the intravenous administration that you have given. Okay, and in relative bioavailability, 1 implies that bioavailability of the drug from both the dosage form is same, but it does not always indicate the completeness of the systemic drug absorption. Okay, because this both the formulation are going to be in this particular relative bioavailability, both the formulations are going to be solid dosage forms. In the sense, they could be either tablet, they could be either capsule, because we are not comparing here with the intravenous formulation. We are just comparing with the formulation that is available in the market. So you are not sure whether those formulation are completely absorbed into the systemic circulation or not. It's just that you'll be comparing. So अगर Glenmark का bioavailability आ रहा है 1 और मेरे इसका भी आ रहा है 1, then I'm saying that I'm having the absolute relative bioavailability as 100%. So, but I'm not sure कि Glenmark का कितना exactly. It does not always indicate that Glenmark's formulation, which could be a tablet, capsule, anything, whether it has been completely absorbed into the blood circulation or not. I'm just comparing my result with the Glenmark result. So, अगर उसका 60 आता है, मेरा भी 60 आता है, then my relative bioavailability is 1. Okay. So, but that is not the case with the absolute bioavailability. And absolute bioavailability, it will be always 1 because you're comparing with the intravenous formulation, and intravenous formulation will always have 100% absorption of the drug. Okay, you're understanding this part? Yes or no? Just type me in the chat box. Okay, Naina, thank you. Then moving on, the types of bioavailability of drug from dosage. Bioavailability of drug from dosage forms. The dosage form could be oral, liquid, rectal, etc. It depends on following. First of all, तो तुम्हारा route of administration क्या है, ठीक है? Then patient-related factors, then physicochemical properties of the drug, and characteristics of the dosage form. So these are the 4 factors which are going to tell how exactly your bioavailability will be. Like what all parameters can affect the bioavailability of a drug. For example, route of administration, I tell you. Intravenous route of administration is the 100% absorption route of administration, right? Because you're directly injecting the drug into the blood circulation. So when I compare it to the oral formulation, the drug that is going to get absorbed into my systemic circulation is always going to be lesser. So IV is better than oral. Okay? So what kind of route of administration you are taking, that will also derive how much of your bioavailability will be there. Okay. Then patient related factor, for example, children, old aged people. So for all those people, then obese people, thin people. So depending on the type of or sick patients, right? Depending on the characteristic of your patient, the bioavailability criteria is also going to be different, right? So whatever drugs are available in the market, they are made according to the average person's body mix, right? So if a person is there who is weighing around 150 kgs, maybe he will not suffice with 1 paracetamol tablet for reducing his fever. He might have to take 2 tablets. Okay, because it's always body, the amount of dose that you give, it's always related to what is the weight of the person, right? So he might not get an effect. His fever might not get reduced by eating just 1 tablet of paracetamol. So he might take 2 tablets. Then same is for old people, sick people. They might not have any effect on the body because they do not have those enzymes, those fresh enzymes in their body which are required for the metabolism of the drug, and hence they will not have the drug into their systemic formulation as soon as they eat the medication. So those could be patient-related factors. Okay. Physicochemical properties of the drug. So physicochemical properties of the drug play a very major role, because when you have investigated a new drug or when you have a drug with you, you have to make sure that that drug should pass all the barriers that are there in the body and reach the systemic circulation. If you want your drug to reach to systemic circulation, then it should be what? Hydrophilic, hydrophobic, both the characteristics should be there. ठीक है, वो कौन से pH को कैसे डिसोसिएट होता है, कैसे एसोसिएट होता है, कौन से प्रोटीन के साथ एसोसिएट हो रहा है, कौन से प्रोटीन के साथ नहीं एसोसिएट हो रहा है. So all these factors, they matter a lot when it comes to absorption of the drug. So which all comes under the physicochemical property of the drug. And that is the reason when R&D in formulation, drug formulation comes into picture. Because what is their main aim? That you have a drug. Now you have to formulate that drug in such a way that it will be getting absorbed into the blood circulation, at least via one of the method of administration, at least by tablets, at least by capsule or liquid formulation or aerosol formulation, something like that. Okay? So in that, the physicochemical properties of drug will make a lot of difference. So what is the exact characteristic of your drug that will help you to determine whether at what pH it will be working nicely, at what pH it will be inefficient. Looking at a structure, you can also determine with all what all proteins that can get interacted, and hence it will be not available into the blood circulation. So all these parameters will depend on the physicochemical properties of the drug. Then characteristics of the dosage form. So what kind of a dosage form you are selecting, that is also very important, right? So you know that liquid formulations are better than compared to the oral. Means like liquid and solid dosage form are the types of oral formulation. So you know that IV is better than oral. फिर उसके बाद nasal, उसके बाद आता है rectal. So or why you are selecting one particular type of a dosage form is very important. See, sometimes we have for sick people who cannot take any medication through their mouth because they're sick or terminally sick, or when they're unconscious, that time we give them the medication through rectal route. Okay? So what is the exact characteristic of your dosage form? That will also determine how much of the bioavailability of your drug will be there. Okay? So that these four factors are very important, like what is the route of administration, what is patient related factors, what is the physicochemical properties of the drug, and characteristics of the dosage form. And that is when in the characteristic of dosage form, now that is where the nanoscience is coming into picture, because you can have the targeted drug deliveries if you can make those nanoparticles which we can directly inject at the site of action where you exactly want that drug to work. Okay? This is where the nanoscience, nanomaterials and nanoparticles are coming into picture. So if you have a dosage form, if you can formulate in such a way that we can use it for targeted delivery, then a person will benefit more. The sick person will benefit more by doing that. So there are many innovations and investigations going on in this particular field. Okay. Then, are there any doubts? Then bioavailability, the influence of the route of administration on drugs bioavailability is generally in the following order. So parenteral is higher, then oral, then rectal, then topical. So lowest the drug bioavailability will be through topical mode of administration, then that of the parenteral will have the 100%. Most drugs are administered orally for a reason of stability and convenience, right? Because nobody wants to take injections again and again. So it is oral route of administration is very convenient, and you don't need any trained person for administrating the tablets or capsule. Whereas for giving salines or injection, you need a trained person, and hence we use it as a very convenient method of administrating the drugs. So the dose available to patient is the bioavailable. The dose that gets available to the patient, that is in their systemic circulation, that goes into their systemic circulation, will be called as the bioavailable dose. For example, this is a very nice graph they have shown about plasma concentration in with the IV route and with the oral route of administration. So you see with IV, we have maximum 100, almost 100% of absorption of the drug when we compare it to the oral. But why we do not prefer IV always? Because it is obviously a very tricky method, and then you want to use IV only when the people are sick, means they're terminally sick and you want them to recover as soon as possible. Okay. Then next part is methods of assessing the bioavailability. So there are two methods by which you can assess the bioavailability. When I say assessing bioavailability, what do you mean by that? That means how will you calculate or how will you determine the bioavailability? Okay? So first method is pharmacokinetic method, which is called as indirect method. So that in that we have two methods by which we can do the analysis assessing of the bioavailability. First is blood analysis, and second one is urinary extraction data. Okay. In pharmacodynamic methods, we have that, which is also called as direct method of assessing the bioavailability. We have acute pharmacological response method and therapeutic response method. So one by one, we will see what all these methods are exactly. So pharmacokinetic method, which is called as indirect method, what is it? In that, first is blood analysis. So plasma level time studies or the plasma concentration time curve or blood level curve. So this is what we'll be doing through this study. So basically plasma concentration against time. Okay? So that is what we'll be looking into through blood analysis. So ultimately, see, in while explaining you guys about the clinical trials, मैंने क्या बोला था? At every time point, you will be extracting the blood samples from the subjects. To do what? To do the blood analysis for assessing the drug in your plasma. Okay, how much of the drug is there in your blood circulation, and you will be extracting the drug. Okay, how much percent of the drug is being there at what point of time. Okay, so whether that data is matching with your preclinical data and in vitro data that you have done in past time, yes, or whether it's matching or not, that is what you will be determining. And if it's matching, then it's well and good. If it's not matching, then you'll have to go ahead and change the formulation and again do the trial. Something like that should be there. So a direct relationship exists, concentration of the drug at the site of action and the concentration of the drug in the plasma. Okay? So there is a direct relationship between the drug which is going to be there at the site of action and concentration of the drug in the plasma. So if the concentration of the drug is higher at the site of the action, that means the drug concentration is higher in the plasma as well. See, I always tell this example when I teach about drugs or something. See, I eat the medication through my mouth, right? Or oral route, I mean to say. So if I'm having headache, I'm eating the medication, tablet diclogem or something like that. So when diclogem will get completely dissolved in my stomach, then the diclofenac sodium will get absorbed into the systemic circulation and then it will reach the site of action. So hence there is a direct relationship between the site of, so what is my site of action over here? My head will be the brain, I mean whatever receptors which are located in my brain area will be the site of action. So there is a direct relationship. जितना जल्दी systemic circulation में मेरा drug आएगा, उतना जल्दी I will get relieved from the headache, right? So serial blood samples are taken after drug administration and analyzed for the drug concentration at various time points. A typical blood level curve obtained after oral administration of the drug. So you will be getting that at 1 hour. Let's see here. At 0.1 hour, I got this much. Then at 1 hour, I got the highest concentration. Then at 2 hour, it started dropping. Some curve like that. Some data like this you will be getting. Okay. Then next analysis method was urinary extraction data. So the method of determination of bioavailability provided that the active ingredient is excreted unchanged in significant quantity of urine. So the cumulative amount of active drug excreted in the urine is directly proportional to extent of systemic drug absorption. So this method is of determination of bioavailability is applicable only when the active ingredient is excreted unchanged in the body. Okay, so you'll be collecting the urine sample, and if your drug is unchanged, active ingredient is unchanged, then only you can go through this method to determine the bioavailability. So you'll be taking urine sample and you'll be checking the amount of drug that is getting excreted. Okay, so अगर मैंने 100% drug दिया है, at 1 hour I am getting 20% of the drug in the urine sample, then I know that 80% of the drug is still there in the systemic circulation, right? So the cumulative amount of the active drug excreted in urine is directly proportional to the extent of the systemic drug absorption, right? So the rate of drug excretion is directly proportional to the rate of systemic drug absorption. So जब भी मुझे urine sample में 50% of the drug मिलेगा, that means 50% of the drug is now there into the systemic circulation, right? And then if when I'll get 100% of the drug in the urine sample, then I know 0% of the drug is there into the systemic circulation. So that is how it is. Then pharmacodynamic method, I think we can talk about this pharmacodynamic method little in the next lecture because we have only 3 minutes left. Are there any doubts over here? So we have learned about why do we do bioavailability studies? What are the two types of bioavailability studies? What are the different factors that can affect the on which the bioavailability depends? And then what are the methods of assessing the bioavailability, in which we saw first two methods, which is pharmacokinetic method, blood analysis, and urinary extraction data analysis. So if you see, there are many calculations and many formulas involved with these two methods, but we don't want to learn that in detail. I want you guys to have an idea that what all different methods of assessing bioavailability are there. Okay, so you must know that. Then a pharmacodynamic method of assessing the drugs we will see in the next lecture. When we joined the lecture, there were 19 to 20 students, and now there are only 16. If you at all face any network issue, you have to let me know because I have to forward the data to the principal ma'am. Okay, so you have to let me know why you are not able to join the lecture at particular point of time. That I came to know yesterday only because we had a meeting yesterday. So you have to let us know why you are not able to join. Okay, are there any internet issues in your area, or you are facing problem or something like that? So you have to let us know. Okay, who all are not there now? Let me see. Okay. Are there any doubts about this session? Please let me know. And as Ketan requested me, we'll be doing the presentations on 18th. Okay. So let me talk about that particular topic also. Just a minute. We can do that. So what I want people to do is, the first 6 people is that ethical issues in animal studies. Okay, so there will be topics under this CPSCE guidelines, and what are the animal welfare, what type of animals are used for studies. So there are 2-3 topics under that. You will be selecting that. Tell me what all topics are there, and then we can decide accordingly. Just give me the list of topics for 6 students. दैट एथिकल इश्यूज इन एनिमल स्टडीज अब हम लोग क्या देख सकते हैं, CPSC गाइडलाइंस तो है ही उसके अंदर, फिर एनिमल वेलफेयर क्या रहता है, व्हाट आर टाइप्स ऑफ एनिमल्स दैट वी यूज फॉर स्टडीज, ठीक है। तो ऐसे 3 टॉपिक्स रहेंगे जिसके ऊपर हम प्रेजेंटेशन कर लेंगे, ठीक है। If you guys are not able to choose, I will let you know, but you at least from your side you just give me the topics what all will come under the animal studies. Okay, so are there any doubts about this session? Just let me know fast because we have less than 1 minute remaining. So Priya, are we fine till here?